Hello and welcome. My name is Imani Rupert Gordon and I'm the Executive Director for Affinity Community Services. Affinity is a social justice organization and we work with LGBTQ communities of color on the south side of the city. I also want to share a bit about myself today. I use the pronouns she, her, and hers, or they, them, and theirs. And I want to make that distinction because sometimes folks don't know that pronouns aren't things that we guess about people. Pronouns are things that we tell people that we like to be called by. And so I just want to let you know that I go by she, her, and hers, or they, them, and theirs. They, them, and theirs is the most common gender-neutral pronoun. And if you don't believe me, it's completely grammatically correct. You can go and check that out. Today, I am so excited to be sitting with Pigeon Pagonis. Pigeon, I have been a huge, huge fan of yours. I've been fangirling for you for years now. So I'm so excited that we get to do some work together. I'm really excited about that.
Same.
Thank you. I want to introduce you to the audience. So Pigeon Pagonis is a national leader in the fight for intersex rights and appeared on the cover of the January 2017 National Geographic magazine under Gender Revolution issue. Pigeon was recognized by the White House in 2015 as an LGBT community champion of change. For over a decade, they've been a leader in the intersex movement's rights for bodily autonomy and justice. Pigeon's goal is to deconstruct the dangerous myths that lead to the violations of intersex people's human rights, including common, irreversible medical procedures performed without consent to make their bodies conform to binary sex stereotypes.
That was a mouthful.
It was. You are fancy.
Okay, can I never look at you?
You can look at me.
Okay.
You can look at me.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. You're fancy.
No, it really is an honor. Thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
So,
My pleasure.
so let's jump right in.
Okay.
So intersex is something that's not always included in the LGBTQI acronym. And I'm wondering, can you explain to the audience what intersex means and if you think it does belong in that long acronym?
For sure. Intersex is an umbrella term encompassing 20 or so plus conditions, biological conditions that when a person is born with sex characteristics that aren't able to classify into either male or female completely. So sex characteristics can be your chromosomes, your traits, your genitalia, your reproductive organs, all of these things. So if somewhere along the line one of those things doesn't fit the binary definition of traditional definition of male or female, a child could be considered intersex by medical practitioners and society. Important to note, this is not usually related to a medical or health emergency. It's just how a child looks is. And it's just a part of the sexual spectrum that people are born on. And it happens, surprisingly, in 1 in 2,000 births. So that's similar to the amount of redheads that exist in the world that are born naturally with red hair. So it's about 1.7% of the population, or the amount of redheads in the world. So I'm one of those people. I was born intersex with sex characteristics that don't neatly fit into one of those categories of male or female. And we'll get into later what kind of happens to intersex people. But to the other question of LGBT and if the I is added or isn't, that's an interesting question. I really believe it should be left up to the person to decide whether or not they believe that, intersex should be added to the LGBT acronym. For me, I happen to also identify as queer, and so for me, it fits, it works out. For some people, they don't identify as queer, and they might not think it works out if they're intersex. But then, even if they're not queer or LGBT, and they're intersex, they might be an ally and think, hey, it's great, let's add intersex to this bigger acronym to join that bigger movement. So it really depends on the person, I think. And for me, it tends to work out, and it's been really helpful for the community as a whole to kind of join forces with the LGBT community. Mm-hmm. Because also, interestingly enough, a lot of intersex people can be L, can be G, can be B, can be T. Yes. So there's that natural overlap. Just like anyone else, intersex people can identify anywhere in the sexuality spectrum. So.
Awesome. Well said. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think, is there a caller?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes. I just wanted to ask, I'm kind of curious about your show here. You saying subject, I guess, is about intersex.
Yes.
You're talking about chromosomes of people who are born with certain characteristics.
Yes.
So, I mean, I've seen some very, very attractive women who, guess early on in life, identify themselves as being tomboyish or aggressive, but they're very, feminine, and they want to be heterosexual. I mean, is that some kind of genetic mutation going on that you're trying to describe to us?
So if I heard you correctly, I think the first thing we need to separate is sex and gender. So sex is the biological condition or the biological way, variation that people are born, right? And typically we hear male sex and female sex, and that's kind of all we hear about. And gender is like those gender roles that people take on, whether woman or man, and you're either masculine or feminine. So a lot of people who are not intersex, born female, can also have traits like you described, like being a tomboy or whatever like that. Doesn't mean they're intersex. People like me, like I said, I'm intersex. You know, anyways, did you hear the question?
I mean, so it sounds like I think that you're doing a really good job here. So it sounds like there are some different things that we're talking about, like just the difference of sex and gender. Someone being intersex doesn't inherently make someone a tomboy, and you also seem to make a distinction that this woman was really, or this person was really beautiful too, and that is, yeah, all people are beautiful. There's lots of beautiful people out there. So it doesn't mean that someone's intersex for any reason, because someone being beautiful doesn't make someone intersex, and being a tomboy doesn't make someone intersex. If I understood your question correctly.
Yeah. And we're gonna talk about a model later on, maybe that just came out this week as intersex. So
yes.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah. It looks like we have another caller.
Thank you for the question. Looks like we have another caller.
This is Precious Brady Davis. I just want to say that I appreciate the work that you, Pigeon, and that you, Imani, that you both do in the community. Thank you so much for your advocacy, and I celebrate you.
Oh.
We celebrate you.
Thank you, Precious. I'm a big fan of yours too.
Same. Cool.
Oh, how awesome. Okay, so Precious is a well-known activist in Chicago and does a lot with the LGBTQI community, and we are big fans of hers. So
And congratulations on your marriage.
yes.
Recent marriage.
Yes, you recently got married to Miles Brady. They are
Yes.
a lovely, lovely couple.
Cool. So did you have any other questions?
I do. So I was going to ask you, so how did you become an intersex activist, and really what does that mean to you?
So I was kind of born into it. Like I said, I was born intersex with this sex variation. And I'm not the kind of type of person to kind of sit back and be on the sidelines of things. So when I met my first intersex person when I was 18, my first other intersex person besides myself, they were an intersex activist. They're an early trailblazer from the south side of Chicago, actually, Linnell Stephanie Long. And she kind of held my hand and was just like, hey, have you said you're intersex? And I was like, no, I'm scared. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want anyone to know. I'm ashamed. That's the big thing. Is like I was ashamed. And I got to see them do their activism and meet other activists and see myself through them. And I was like, hey, this is something that I want to work up the courage to do one day. And that just kind of snowballed. I think I, manifested it, put it out there, and then it kind of started to happen. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I also wanted to ask, and I think this might be interesting to people, in your opinion, what do you think should happen when an intersex child is born? And then how does that differ
Good
from
question.
what actually happens when
Oh my
an
God,
intersex child
it's
is
two
born?
different things. So let's start with what currently happens. When
Okay.
an intersex child is born, a social emergency is sort of declared in the hospital, right? It's like, oh my God, this child has these genitals that don't match the sex that we're going to assign the child. We need to do something. Or this child is going to be scarred for the rest of their life. This is literally like the thinking, that the genitals of the child must match the assigned gender at birth. Nothing could be further than the truth. What really just needs to happen is that you take the child home and you love them, and when they grow up, you give them age-appropriate information about their body and their intersex variation. Connect them to the support group out there. A great one is aisdsd.org. I'm a part of it. Tell the kid there's hundreds of thousands of other kids like you, and we're going to go meet them this summer. We're in a different city every summer. And let them decide about making decisions about their body as they grow older. Do not do surgery early on that's going to take away sensitive genital tissue from their body and wreck their bodily autonomy from an early age. And that is what currently happens a lot of times, is doctors recommend, let's do gender corrective, quote unquote, gender normalizing surgery on children before they can remember, so they grow up normal. And nothing can be further than the truth. Normal is actually letting the child be intersex and inhabit their body as they were born. Because like I said earlier, there's usually 9 times out of 10 not a health or medical emergency related. It's just a quote-unquote difference in how we look and how our bodies have manifested themselves while developing. So, yeah, that's what does happen, is a lot of secrecy, surgery, lies, and shame. And what should happen is the complete opposite, is you take the kid home, love them, tell them they're intersex, tell them the truth, be honest, have those difficult conversations with friends and family and the child, but get connected to a support group, get connected to other parents who have gone through the same thing as you. We're out here, you got the internet, and hopefully, and like, well, we'll be talking about a new support group in Chicago, but yeah.
So that is something that's interesting. You know, I think we've talked about this a few times, but maybe just to make it a little bit more clear, you know, when someone's born, there's, you know, based on chromosomes or your autonomy, you're assigned a sex, and gender is something that we perform. Those are things that we choose, and so you know, when we have gender, like, there are things that we consider more masculine, things are more feminine. Sometimes there are things like the way that our voice, or the clothes that we wear, or our mannerisms, or our gait, the way that we walk. All of those things are ways that we perform gender, and those are things that we choose. It's not that when you're assigned a sex at birth that you automatically get a gender.
Right.
A lot of times people try to assume that that's the case, but we know that that's not. That's why you have people that are on more masculine or more feminine sides of the spectrum. You know, people are complex, and it would make sense. These are all socialized things. Like, these are things that we learn and we choose, and they feel right to us. So, you know, I also wanted to wonder if you could go maybe into a little bit more detail. One of the websites you said it was
DSD.org.
Yes, okay. So what do these stand for?
AIS is the medical condition, quote-unquote condition, that I was born with, which stands for Androgen Insensitivity Syndrome. Again, I hate that word, syndrome. But it basically means my body, so I'm one of like 20 intersex conditions. My body is insensitive to androgens. Androgens is an umbrella term for things like testosterone and other hormones found mostly higher in male-bodied and male-identified people. My body resists androgens, but not coincidentally, but surprisingly, aha, world, my body was born with XY chromosomes, which are traditionally thought of as the male sex chromosomes. So here I am, I come in the world, I have XY chromosomes, but no one knows because you can't see chromosomes unless you take a blood test. And my body on the outside had what appeared to be female body parts. So I was labeled female at birth, F on the birth certificate, go home, take your daughter home, have a great life. 8 months into my life, they did a blood test on me and realized, oh wait, your daughter has XY chromosomes, what's going on? What was going on was my body was insensitive to the androgens, like testosterone in my body, so it developed only with the estrogens, and I came out looking like a girl on the outside, but actually had testes in my abdomen, internal testes, undescended testes. But even if my testes fired off testosterone, my body wouldn't be able to hear that because, again, it's insensitive for the most part. I'm partially insensitive, but we'll get into that to another day. So yeah, that's one of the conditions out there. I have partial androgen insensitivity syndrome, and it's pretty common variation. And yeah, and like that group stands for AIS, androgen insensitivity syndrome. The DSD is a medicalized term for intersex that I don't like. That stands for disorder or difference of sex development. So it was made back in the day a little bit, AISDSD.org. And but anyways, it's a great support group of great people from all over the country and world, and you can get a scholarship if it's your first time going. So apply for that scholarship early. It's going to be in July in Arizona this year, the in-person meeting, and we could talk online and stuff. Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome.
thanks for asking that.
Yeah, thank you. So it looks like we have a caller. Caller, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I'm back again. A quick question. Yeah, now you say you have these antigen sensitivities, and you test these internal. My question is, so can you conceive? Can you be impregnated? I mean, can you bear a child?
So good question. I get this often. My testes were removed when I was less than 1 year old because doctors cited that they could develop cancer as undescended testes when I was older, which is a very small rate of cancer associated, but they took them out. I also was not born with a uterus, and I did not have ovaries because I had testes. So they took out my testes. I didn't have a uterus, but I did have a vaginal canal and labia and stuff like that, and a clitoris. But I don't have the reproductive organs to produce a child or conceive a child or inseminate someone either. I don't have my testes anymore. So no, I can't conceive children, and that's common with my intersex variation. But there are some intersex variations who can conceive children or inseminate other people. Yeah.
Pigeon, thank you so much for being so honest about your own experience.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, please, feel if there's ever anything that's not as comfortable for you, feel free to not answer. These are
Okay.
really personal. But thank you so much.
Cool.
So it looks like we have another caller.
Yeah, you do. And thank you for taking my call. I think am I on?
You
Yeah,
are.
we hear you.
Okay. This is interesting to me because what you said was, you said that when you were born, they looked at you and they could see this condition.
No, they could not.
Okay. So then I think I heard you say 8 months later they
Yes.
saw something. They did. Can I ask you, what happened at 8 months that?
So when I was about 6 months old, the pediatrician noticed my labia looked, in my medical record, swollen, and my clitoris looked a little bit enlarged. And that's what set me off to go into Children's Memorial here in Chicago. And they did some blood work and realized I had the XY chromosomes and what they called back then testicular feminization, which is now called androgen insensitivity syndrome. And that kind of was a snowball effect to more and more surgeries and things like that.
So when you were, I got two questions and I'm going to let somebody else get in.
Okay.
So when you were first born, it was not, that intersex is not detectable, am I correct?
In my condition, no, I just kind of looked like a girl that didn't have an intersex condition when I was born. Yeah.
Okay, and my last question is, I'm getting ready to go off and say something that I'm not trying to offend you. I'm really trying to understand this.
That's fine. I can hear it in your voice.
Stop.
You're a nice person.
I am, trust me, and I didn't call several times when Affinity had been here. We got more things in common than I want to go into right now because you're teaching me something. But when I started watching Star Wars and I learned the term androgynous or android, are intersex people, would that be a real classic, and am I saying it wrong or am I saying it right?
So,
Intersex people are really true classic androids, am I correct?
well,
In a human sense.
I wish I watched Star Wars so I could answer this more specifically, but no, like again, like intersex people, this is our sex. This is how we're born. So if you're born male or female, that's your sex, and you can express your gender any way you wish. Like you could be masculine, you could be feminine, you could be butch, you could not, you could be masculine of center, feminine of center. You could be androgynous too. And just like non-intersex people, we inhabit all those roles in the world, and we can change any day too, like anyone else. But yeah, so for me, I just happen to look androgynous right now, but growing up, I didn't. I looked pretty feminine growing up. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, no problems. I had no idea I was intersex. No one else did. And I was also a tomboy sometimes too, like other little girls that weren't intersex. But that's when I played softball and I was on the field, and so I didn't have, and I think like you're Imani, you're not intersex, but if you wanted to look androgynous one day, you could too, and if you didn't, you didn't. But it's not because you're intersex or not. It's just the performance, like you were talking about, of gender and gender roles and Star Wars.
Yes, yeah. No, so I think that was really well said. You did say, someone like an android. I will say that I don't exactly know what an android is, but it doesn't sound human.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds like a phone.
I know, we're both we haven't watched Star Wars.
I'm an android.
No, I would steer away from that. I think that would be more disrespectful. Really appreciate your just putting it out there that you're trying to be as kind as possible.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Yeah, and thank you so much for answering, just being so honest with everything. But like Pigeon said, being androgynous is something different, and lots of people are androgynous. Marilyn Manson is a really popular example of someone. I'm not sure if Marilyn Manson is intersex, but it wouldn't matter. That's just a gender performance. And I think what we're trying to get at is that intersex is a gender, and it is not a gender.
No, it's a
okay,
sex.
tell me that. It's a sex. Okay,
biological
yes,
sex.
Yes, it's a sex, and gender is what we perform.
Yes.
Well done.
Just remember, intersex has the word sex in it, so that's a sex. It's a sex. It's like a male, female, intersex, and then,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So we have 8 minutes.
We do.
And we have another caller.
We do. What do you think? What do you want to do?
We should take this call, and then we should get to the most important last question.
Okay, perfect. Caller, go ahead.
Yes. Yes, how are you?
Good, how are you? Thanks for calling.
Yes, I was just commenting on what the caller just said. Android is robotics, actually. So, by no means are you robotic.
Oh,
Definitely understand exactly what you were saying.
So you're saying androids are robots?
Android is robotics, actually.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's not human, right?
Not at all.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Great. Okay. So then, not androids.
No.
Yeah. So great. Now we can answer that. Perfect. Thank you so much for calling back.
But have androgen insensitivity syndrome, but
Yes.
not android. Nothing. I don't even have an
Well
Android
done.
phone. Okay. Cool.
Okay. So Affinity is proud to start an intersex support group, collaboration. So, and this group is going to be especially for intersex people of color. And can you talk about what you hope to see from this group?
Yes, I hope to see community amongst intersex people of color, support amongst intersex people of color, laughter, crying sometimes, just being there for each other in a unique space that we're going to carve out at Affinity for intersex people of color in Chicago. And eventually, I hope we move from supporting each other, and if some of us want to do direct action. Putting pressure on the hospitals in the city and other maybe politicians to start putting pressure on them to stop the current protocol, which is to lie to intersex children, not tell them they're intersex, do surgeries on them to kind of take away their intersexness, and hope that's a word. And then so we want to probably maybe be like politically active in that realm in the future. But starting out, just supporting each other, having fun, watching movies, hanging out, helping each other with advice about how to navigate dating and relationships, or going to the doctor, or getting your medicine, or getting on insurance, or going to the, whatever. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And it looks like we have another caller.
Yeah, good evening. I just wanted to ask one last question. Kind of piggybacking off of the last caller with the definition of android. It seems today that some people are beginning to take on the characteristics of androidism or they're robotic. I guess, I don't know, is it Robocops and that kind of thing? Should go out asking questions, and now that you said something earlier about a mutation, I asked about mutation of those chromosomes. Can there be some kind of other way of mutating those chromosomes without going through surgeries? I mean, altering them through drug therapies and so forth to make people android-like?
I have no idea. You should probably Google that, because that has nothing to do with being intersex. Intersex is just we've existed since the beginning of times. I like to say there was probably intersex dinosaurs. Intersex exists in primates, in butterflies, in fish. It's in humans. It's just a natural way of existing and biologically. And unfortunately, the response to our bodies has been to bring violence upon them with these like unnecessary genital damaging surgeries. And so that's another reason why I wanted to create an intersex person of color group with Affinity, because as my friend Saifa reminds me and others all the time, the oppression that and the violence that is state sanctioned that goes against people of color in the forms of, say, police brutality and prison and things like that is similar to the way that the medical industrial complex has brought violence upon intersex people. So there's that overlap there, and I think it's important to then come together as intersex people and intersex people of color together to fight for justice, liberation, and bodily autonomy. And to do education and awareness like this so that people understand that we're humans and not androids.
Yes.
So, do you have any other questions?
Yeah. And I just want to say, there's so many people that are my and other people's heroes and sheroes and theyros. And they are amazing and not robots, and so I just want to make sure that that's really clear. Like, it's really important that we're staying on the same page here.
It could be confusing.
Yeah, but
I said android, so maybe people heard android.
I mean, Pigeon's like a real life superhero, so I've been like, I'm
real. Like, yes, I can stand, I can walk. Yes. I'm not a robot.
Yes. But like I said, I've been a huge fan of yours for a really long time. So
same.
So, we have just a couple minutes left.
Yes.
And I want to say, I want to ask, why do you think it's important to highlight the experiences of intersex folks of color in particular?
Well, like I said, I think intersex people of color have a specific experience that needs to be shared. And I think it's important for, say, just intersex people to get together and have support together as intersex people. That's important and invaluable for people sometimes. And I think in the same way, intersex people of color might need support from just intersex people of color, because sometimes well-meaning people who aren't people of color and don't have that experience aren't able to offer that support that people of color might need. So, and at the same time, it doesn't hurt or harm or take away from anyone else. So I think it's time, and it's a relevant moment. It's 2017. People of color are coming under attack, always and throughout history, but especially now with the current administration. So it's important that we have carved out spaces like this, safe spaces where we can come together and get support from one another. And it doesn't take away from the fact that there's still a national support group that has intersex support for all people that are white too, and not and people of color. So yeah, it's just a little group that we want to create for ourselves here in Chicago.
I think it's great, and it's really important that Affinity works at the intersections of identity, and that means really honoring the most marginalized, and oftentimes it is people of color, and folks from marginalized identities.
Yeah, can't wait to have our first meeting.
I know, I'm really excited about it. Please stay tuned. We'll have it posted on our website. We would love to invite more intersex POC to this program.
Yeah.
Jen, it was an absolute honor to have you today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. If you are interested in contacting us at Affinity, we are at affinity95.org, or you can contact me at Imani at affinity95.org. And Pigeon, how can people follow up with you?
Just look up Pigeon and the word intersex anywhere on the Googles, Twitter, Facebook, facebook.com/pigeon, PIDGEON. You could just find me that way. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Have a good one.
All right.
Bye now.